I'm Ashley Pickle. That's Greg Powers, and this is This Week
in Cruton.
It is This Week in Recruiting. We are pumped up on a Wednesday afternoon. And why is that? Well, it's, of course, because our favorite segment is brought to us by our good chicken friends at Chicken Express. Chicken Express.
It's fresh, and you can taste the difference.
Boom. That
Nice.
literally needs to be their slogan. Like, if it's not...
It is.
Okay, good. I was fixing to say. I was like, I feel like that's too good to just come up with off the top of your head. It is This Week in Recruiting, brought to you by our good chicken friends at Chicken Express. We're joined by Next Level Athletes Greg Powers. How are you, Powers?
Great. Man, it's like peak football season still for recruiting. We had the Under Armour All-America game last week. We have the All-American Bowl coming up and setting the table for, to put a nice bow on the class of 2022 with National Signing Day in February.
How much do you look forward to these weeks of the year where it's kind of like you've seen everything that they can do on the field, but now they have a chance to kind of go and showcase their individual skills in these bowl games?
It's a lot different than it used to be. The early signing period has changed so much with not only from an evaluation standpoint, because your rankings kind of have to be buttoned up before then. It used to be like 2 huge weeks where you put the best players on the field with the other best players and really decide who is the best of the best, or who are the best prospects side by side in comparison. But I think that they take a much more laid back approach now, kind of like a bowl game for some top teams like that were in the college football playoff hunt that then didn't make the college football playoff.
Right.
I think that's kind of how it is for recruits now, and especially this year is a whole new era with the name, image, and likeness deals in effect. You really can't afford to take a chance to get hurt this late in the game, especially
Right.
if you're an early enrollee, you're playing in that game, and then you're going on to college, and there's some big money deals on the table. Kind of changes the atmosphere a little bit as it relates to how hard these players are going to go. So now I think it's smart to take the approach of saying, well, these are some of the best players in the country, but I'm not going to determine their ranking based upon a bowl game that they're not going to be really that serious about, maybe.
Right. So it's almost, I feel like that's almost even more fun because you can get your stuff out of the way and then genuinely enjoy the play on the field rather than be sweating of going, oh my God, where am I going to rank this kid?
Right.
It's kind of like that's already behind you a little bit.
Well, and I'll give some plug to the San Antonio Sports All-Star Game that happens after the All-American Bowl this weekend on Saturday inside the Alamo Dome. I love that game because it brings the best players in San Antonio together on one field, and every time I've attended it, the atmosphere has been great because you have a big part of the crowd that stays after the All-American Bowl, and it's a real football game with real football rules, and everybody plays extremely hard.
That's
and
awesome.
To me, that's a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed covering that game in recent years just because of the effort that all the players put forth, and it's been a really close and good competitive game almost every single year. So that's a fun game. If you're a Texas high school football fan in San Antonio, then you should buy a ticket and go out and watch both games on Saturday.
Never too much football around these parts. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. This week in recruiting, we'll start off with our prospect on the rise. This one, a 2024 cornerback out of Denton, Eli Bowen, and you might recognize that name because his brother Peyton Bowen committed to Notre Dame this week. Eli is the younger brother, a sophomore, and he had quite the season for Denton to lead them to that state championship game.
He is always around the football, and it seems like every time that that you're going out to watch Denton Eli Bowen is making a big play. As a matter of fact, he had 10 interceptions. He housed 3 of them after that. So he's like a ball hawk. He's always around the football. 5'9", 165. He has great technique. He's able to hang in a receiver's hip pocket, and that allows him to be in the position to make these type of plays. If a quarterback makes a little bit of a mistake, Bowen is going to take advantage of it. So far, he has 2 early offers, one from Colorado and one from LSU, but this is a guy who I'm really keeping an eye on throughout the spring evaluation period because of his skill set. His brother, who's committed to Notre Dame, is a 4-star in the class of 2023, one of, if not the top safety in Texas high school football. I think this is a guy who's really going to blow up. He's probably going to end up being a 15 offer, 25 offer type of kid by the time it's all said and done. And I'm sure that there are going to be a lot of people who are not only going to recruit Peyton throughout the course of this season, the next year, but they're also going to be recruiting Eli, trying to get a 2-for-1 deal.
Oh, absolutely. And it's one of those things, too. I mean, 10 interceptions at a sophomore, spectacular.
Right.
But then you always wonder with the little brothers if, like, they tend to, not always, but I feel like they tend to be, a little bit better because, one, they're trying to outplay older brother. And then, two, they grew up being right there and being able to watch older brother do that. So they kind of, you learn the mistakes early.
Notre Dame, offer the brother.
Get a little twofer there on the Bowen brothers. Again, that was our prospect on the rise. Denton Geyer, 2024 cornerback. 2024, my lord.
It's crazy, isn't it?
2024 cornerback Eli Bowen. Now up next, let's head over to our commit of the week. This one, we talked about him a little bit earlier this week because it needed to go in our headlines, obviously,
yeah.
but you have the way better insight here. Cypress Park outside linebacker Harold Perkins announced his commitment to Texas A&M at that Under Armour All-America Bowl that we were talking about earlier. A DCTF 4-star, number 1 outside linebacker in the state. This was one of those that you put out the article of like the 7 top prospects we were waiting to still sign. What a pickup to add to that number 1 recruiting class by Texas A&M.
And he is like the perfect new age style linebacker. As a matter of fact, he flipped over and played a lot of running back this year, so he was a two-way standout at Cypress Park. But 6'2", 200 pounds, 6'1", 200 pounds, right in that range. He's a very athletic linebacker who will lay the wood, but also has the ability to hang tight in coverage and play multiple roles, at that second level in a defense. I really like this pickup for Texas A&M. As a matter of fact, we'll see how this plays out, and I'm not saying that let's say it like this. There's a good chance I could be wrong. I don't like to say that. It just sounds
it doesn't feel good coming off the tongue right there.
I think he's a 5-star or consensus 5-star like on all the other recruiting sites. If you're a DCTF 5-star, you're ranked within the top 5. That's our criteria for being a 5-star. Harold Perkins is number 6, and this has been like a constant debate I've had with all of my recruiting buddies on the trail this year. They're like, Greg, you're missing the game on Harold Perkins, and I'm like, well, I mean, I love Harold Perkins, but there's only 5 5-stars. What can I do? All the other guys are really good too. So it's one of these cases where I hope that I don't look back on it and say, man, Greg, everybody told you Harold Perkins should have been a 5-star, and you just didn't move him up high enough to make it happen. But with all that being said, he has 5-star talent.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, and it's funny to watch this Huddle film because, like you said, we know him as the outside linebacker, the star, the number 1, and all of them has been his running back plays. And he looks like like he's been doing that forever.
Yeah,
I mean, look right there. Even the hands on the catch. Like, this guy is insane just athletically.
He is a beast, and I have to point out that with the commitment of Harold Perkins, it looks like that Texas A&M has a chance to end up signing when the dust settles and the ink dries on, the final national signing day, what could be the number 1 recruiting class of all time in the history of internet recruiting.
They have 6 5-stars, don't they?
Yeah, well, and they also have 7 out of the top 10 high school prospects in the DCTF top 10.
Goodness
so it is a monster class. They've got everyone from 6 through 10 is going to Texas A&M, and then a couple more to boot. So, I mean, what they've done on the recruiting trail this year is pretty sick, and I think that it's setting the table for a huge run there in the SEC. And what better timing with the SEC expansion coming, and when that happens, they're going to have these guys up front on the defensive line because outside of the state, they signed the number 1 defensive lineman in the country and another 5-star from Florida. So, I mean, they really have reloaded in the trenches, and then around that they've put guys like Harold Perkins and Connor Wigman and Cam Dewberry and Bryce Anderson, or you know what I mean? Like
that list is just insane.
Evan Stewart.
Yeah. How could you forget?
So, I mean, Texas A&M's recruiting class is pretty sick.
Jimbo Fisher's got something down there in the water in College Station that's getting all those top recruits. So again, that was our underclassmen. No, scratch that. That was our commit of the week. Cypress Park outside linebacker Harold Perkins commits at the All-American Bowl. This is This Week in Recruiting. We're talking with Next Level Athletes. Greg Powers, get involved in the conversation. #TF today. Let's matriculate on to our underclassmen of the week. This one, 2023 wide receiver out of Fort Bend Marshall, Jacoby Banks. And how about this? I got to give Malpal some credit here because yesterday we did a little bowl recap. talking about the bowl games and obviously Houston getting a huge win over Auburn, and she was like, man, they're heading into the Big 12. This has got to create some momentum going down there and taking down an SEC opponent. Well, there you go. Jacoby Banks, a prime example there. He picks Houston over Texas A&M, Marshall, and Pittsburgh. The Cougs, they're cooking too.
Yeah, and I really like what they did in their 2022 recruiting class. They have only signed 10 players in that class, but some names that, kind of top the list are Matthew Golden, a one-time TCU commit, Demetrius Hunter, a one-time Oklahoma commit, C.J. Nelson, a one-time TCU commit, and Traylon Payne, who's one of the top linebackers in the state of Texas, from Converse Judson. So they really did a good job not only getting good high school talent, but I think that they'll be a heavy factor in the transfer portal as well, because you mentioned off the top that they're going to be moving to the Big 12. They have a really strong season this year. Let's throw this in. Their basketball team is really good.
Yeah,
there's a lot of really good things going on around UH right now, and they've started to get on a little bit of a roll in recruiting, and Jacoby Banks is one of these guys who has the skill set to play a number of different positions. As a matter of fact, he plays quarterback for Fort Bend Marshall, and he's extremely, extremely athletic. I think that his highest upside once he, settles in at one position in college is going to be wide receiver, and he plays much bigger than his listed attributes. He's listed at 5'10", 170, but even watching these highlights, you can see he just looks a little bit bigger than that. I don't know that some guys just have that aura about them or the ability
confidence
to
almost.
Yeah, I mean, does he not look like he's 6 foot,
Yeah.
6'1", just watching the highlights? That's how he plays. He plays bigger, and he has a little bit of burst of speed that I think that really makes him special. Once he gets a little bit of a crease, he's able to take advantage. Slot wide receiver, get him some touches, get him some holes, and I think he's going to make big plays in the Dana Holgorsen offense.
He's got some really long strides. That might be what makes him look like his length is extended a little bit.
I agree with
there.
you. I mean, he's just long for a 5'10" guy.
All right, that is our underclassmen of the week. Fort Bend Marshall wide receiver Jacoby Banks committed to Houston. Stay at home down there in H-Town. Hold it down. Finally, let's talk about our recruit of the week. This one, a 2022 cornerback out of those South Oak Cliff Golden Bears. How about that for a state championship? Kyron Chambers, you might have seen him there. He's a DCTF 3-star, rated the 96th prospect in the DCTF Hot 100. He's committed to TCU, and this is just me being transparent and not knowing, was he committed there in the Gary Patterson era, or is this a classic Rashad Samples coming in and knowing that local DFW talent?
It is. It's after the coaching change, Kyron Chambers was committed to Arizona, and he made the switch to TCU after the coaching change there. Credit to Paul Gonzalez as well, who had a heavy factor in that recruitment. Chambers is one of these guys who really flourished after making a move from running back to the defensive secondary. I think he played running back his junior year, flipped over and completely kind of played defense this year. I think he got some touches on offense, but his home's going to be in the defensive secondary in college. He played a lot of safety for South Oak Cliff, and he's a guy who has the speed to close quickly, make big plays, and has kind of a nose for the football as well. That secondary at SOC is flat out spectacular. And all but Chambers, I think, are coming back next season. But he was kind of one of the leaders of that group. His senior leadership was apparent in the state championship run. TCU saw what they obviously loved in his game, extended him a scholarship offer. He committed. I think he has the skills to play corner. I think I like him there. And they have two great corners there at SOC in 2023 prospects, Javon Thomas and Malik Muhammad, who do man the island for them. But as he translates his game into college, I think that he has the skill set to play corner, and I like his ability also at safety. So he's a versatile prospect in the defensive secondary who can play multiple positions. He could probably even play nickelback if you needed him to play there. He's not afraid to come down into the box and make a tackle, and these are all the reasons why the All-American Bowl added him to the roster this week.
Oh, absolutely.
They had some guys who tested positive for COVID, weren't able to play in the game, and that opened up an opportunity for Kyron Chambers, and he's going to take advantage of it, and I think he's a guy who might catch some national attention if he can make a big play in the game.
You mentioned him possibly being able to handle his own at corner there. Do you think that him transitioning over from the running back position really helped with that? Because that's a big part of playing corner, is needing to be able to be quick on your feet.
Well, and that actually, now that you say that, plays a heavy factor in why I think he can play corner, because reviewing his running back tape showed that he had the change of direction that I think is necessary to be able to make that transition a successful one. And to me, he just is able to get in and out of his break so quickly. That's something I think that translates to corner. He's 6 foot 195, so he also has the size that you can throw out there and try. He can be a guy who can lock down a Nicholas Anderson at OU. You know what I mean?
Right.
I know OU's going to the SEC. That's going to take a while to get used to.
But for word's sake,
Right.
there you go.
He can go and match up against a 6'3", 6'4" wide receiver, and you're not probably going to worry about him from having a huge size disadvantage. And that's what I like about him out there on the island.
Someone who, man, that was just a
Someone
bad
who you'll
setup.
never leave on the island.
Someone who you'll never leave on the island. He is our Greg Powers. You can follow him on Twitter at GPowersScout. You can follow Next Level Athlete at Next Level D1. Powers, thank you for not only coming in today, but for the little assist there at the end.
I'm probably going to never hear the end of that one.
Maybe we will leave it on an island. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you would like more and to be notified when they come out, go ahead and click that subscribe button right down there. You can also watch Texas Football Today every day live at noon on TexasFootball.com, Facebook, Twitch, and right here on YouTube. For more of the best coverage of Texas football in the Lone Star State, go to TexasFootball.com/subscribe.